So remember what my daddy said, work before pleasure, work and honesty, tell the truth.
Yeah.
And so on, even if you have difficulties.
Welcome to the show. I am your host, Achah Quarter, and I spark the hard conversations that challenge questionable cultural and societal norms that threaten the well-being of the African community. And I also share stories about growing up as Africans in Africa and in the diaspora. I strongly believe that normalizing open discussions and sharing experiences, whether good or bad, will not only make you find your voice, but will broaden your sense of purpose and empower others to do the same. So if you have ever tried challenging certain African cultural and societal doctrines, or if you have ever felt like it is about time that we confronted these issues in our African community and do better as a people, or even if you have always been interested in learning about the experiences of other Africans growing up in Africa and the diaspora, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Living African. Okay. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Living African podcast. I am your host, Achah Quarter, and I am here with my granddad today. And this is a conversation that I'm super excited about because I get to talk with my granddad more than I have ever done in my life before. So I have here with me Dr. Wilfred Asombang, who's my granddad, and I am happy to have you here, Grandad. How are you doing today?
Well, I'm okay. My granddaughter, my baby. I'm in Zambia, in Lusaka. And, of course, I'm Cameroonian by birth.
Yeah.
I've been in Zambia for quite some years, way back. First visited Zambia way back in 1977 for an interview with the United Nations.
Yeah.
Beautiful Namibia, and I'm still in Zambia now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. And you said you worked for the UN from 1977 to when?
Well, I had an interview in 1977, but I started working in 1979.
Right.
Started 1979 effectively, and then I retired from the UN in 2002.
2002,
then, yes, and then I was hired. Then I was hired again by the African Union to serve on peacekeeping missions. Peacekeeping missions, the first one was in Burundi, and then Rwanda, and then of course Sudan.
Right.
The last one was Sudan, and then I finally retired in 2006 from the African Union.
Right.
And so then I've been more or less a freelance consultant in economic affairs, precisely integration, and so on in Africa.
Awesome. You have such a story, and I can't wait to dive into it. So let's take it up, let's take it back a few steps. So where were you born? What was your family dynamic like growing up? Of course, I know you were born in Cameroon, but where exactly? And what was your family dynamics and, just your upbringing as a whole?
Very good. I was born in Mbengwi. Mbengwi has 2 quarters. My quarter is Achah Quarter, Mbengwi. Momo Division, as you will know it today, Momo Division, of course, Bamenda, Northwest. I'm 80 years old now. My father is late, and my mother is late as well. It's a polygamous background. Those of you who are familiar with the Momo, areas, this is the Asombang family. It's we have Asombang, then you have the Njokum. These are the 2. People who are here in Mbengwi.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Nice. So how was, how were you raised? When did you even start school? I know back then people started school late, right? So when did you start school? How was the community like back then?
Yeah, way back in the 50s, we have a Presbyterian. They used to call it Basel Mission Basel Mission School. We had a kindergarten, not not far from where the phone of Mbengwi, from Joachim, just on top there. We started primary school, the Basel Mission School, in Mbengwi.
Right.
I was one of the very few in 1950, and then completed. In fact, I was with the Jack Fombard and so on.
Yeah.
And completed from we had a nursery school. There's a preschool, as it were, right in Mbengwi itself, just next to over the chief's palace. And then there's a Basel Mission School, which was taken out from grade one to grade 6.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, they call it Basel Mission School in Mbengwi. And when I completed in Mbengwi, in those days, we had in Cameroon only 2 secondary schools. One in Bali, that's for the Basel Mission, and the one in Sase for the Catholics. So you can imagine that there were only 2 secondary schools in British Cameroon at the time.
Right.
And so the exams, it was very, very difficult to get in. And so we had Omwa here, Nigeria, and then we had Owerri also in Nigeria. And so those who could not get into Bali or could not get into Sase, we had to go to Enugu there or to Owerri. But in my case, I went to Lagos, Agege, they call it Agege College, Lagos. It's about 14 kilometers from the center of Lagos. So that is, it was not easy in those days, actually. There were just two secondary schools. Can you imagine?
I know. Yeah. So when you were done...
We went to Nigeria, those who were able to manage it.
Yeah. So when you were done with secondary school and high school, what college did you go to?
Then when I was done with that, I went to India. I got a scholarship to go to India. There was only one scholarship. They called it Jawaharlal Nehru scholarship. And I happened to have the only one with GC advanced level.
Wow.
The selection was done in Lagos. The application went from Cameroon to Lagos, and I was selected. And I went to India to the University of Pune on Jawaharlal Nehru scholarship, where I did the Bachelor of Commerce honors degree.
Wow.
With advanced accounting and auditing, in those days.
Wow. So were you the only sibling amongst your siblings that, or at least were you the first person that went that far in education? That's
correct. In fact, the first to go to Bali was Fomukong, Michael Fomukong. He went to Bali. Then I went to Nigeria, and then Michael Fokam, he went to Bali. So there are three of us. The eldest, Fomukong, I was second, and then Fokam was third.
Wow. So, I mean, considering the lack of resources and the fact that you were probably like the very first in the family to have education, especially to that level of advancement, what was your motive? Like, what motivated you to seek that level of education, and what really kept you focused despite all the hurdles? Like, what made you push through to be a success story today?
Yeah, it's my late father, actually. My late father, the way he brought me up, the way he brought us up, was that he emphasized hard work before pleasure. Hard work before pleasure. Now, he was the first to bring coffee to Momo, to Mbengwi there, and then to the whole of Mbengwi, the villages. He brought, he was a coffee farmer. In fact, because he had his own background was that he was conscripted into the army and went to Gold Coast in those days as a driver, a truck driver.
Mm-hmm.
And so he came back with one thing in mind. When he was brought back to succeed his own late father, his motto was, "My son, the first thing in life is work, hard work on your own." So every morning he used to get us up, the men, the males especially, to get us up, and we start work. We have started farming in the coffee farm.
Mm-hmm.
And then after midday, then we say, okay, now it is time to eat. You see? So and his motto was, the first thing in your life is work. Be very, very honest in what we are doing. And then after work, then you can have pleasure. Don't start with pleasure. And so we started a very, 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 very tough life, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a very, very tough life. You would say go to the farm and do things and so on, and then we would get back home. Now, I happen to have been brought up like, I don't know if I mentioned it, in a polygamous family. Now, in a polygamous family, you have one father and you have many mothers. One father and many mothers.
Yeah.
You see? And those mothers, they treat all the children like their own children. They don't make a distinction that this one is that and so on. They treat all of us as one. They don't belong there. They are our mother. Mm-hmm. So in those days, it's very difficult to say, oh, okay, this is my mother or this is this. Because when it comes to eating, we all eat in my father's house. The moment in your father's house. And you call every woman mother. Every woman calls you child.
Yeah.
And so that was the way we were brought up. To hard work. But there was one thing too he too had in mind. He did say that, oh, look, my son, I wish I went to school. So the first thing in your life is you have to go to school, accomplish what you can, and then you can then enjoy yourself the way you want. For instance, marriage was not anything private in his mind. He never even mentioned it. So he treated me like I was treating under complete, absolute control. You know, there was no time I ever spent a night outside the compound.
Yeah.
It was discipline. Discipline was on top of everything. Now the challenge came because of this, for the fact that there were only two secondary schools. And when I took the want to go to Bali, I didn't succeed.
Mm-hmm.
I took, there was an examination that came from schools in Nigeria. I took and I succeeded. Mm-hmm. On scholarship.
Wow.
You see, I was on scholarship. Although when I got to, it was not easy for him to let me go because he did say that, no, if you go and I don't have the money, what is going to happen? You know?
Yeah.
It was his brother, Pa Alexander, one of his brothers, who said, you are saying you shouldn't go, but you were in Gold Coast. This is a man. Let him go. Even if he has no money, he says his scholarship. Whatever little we have, everybody will give something. So they gave me enough to be able to take me transport to Lagos.
Yeah.
But when I got to Lagos, what happened? They closed. Something went wrong, and they closed the school.
Oh no!
They closed the school. Now I was stranded. It was the Muna was in power at the time. So they were visiting, then the Queen was visiting Lagos. So my father said, no, bring back my son. Bring back my son. When I heard about that, I said, no, I'm not going anywhere. I ran into the bush. I tried to hide myself and so on. And then the Queen went away and the politicians from Cameroon came by and went. So then I started struggling, working here and there. In fact, in some cases, I was like a street boy, begging here and there. But so remember what my daddy said, work before pleasure, work and honesty, tell the truth.
Yeah.
And so on, even if you have difficulties. Wow. I remember an incident in Lagos where Well, because I was stranded, I went to the police and said, look, now I don't have anything to, this school is closed. I don't have any food to eat. I don't have anything. Help me. If it means detaining me here, please detain me and give me food. And I will try. I'm not going back to Cameroon. I want really to go to school here. And the police said, why don't you go and commit some crime, do something so we can get you, lock you up and then be able to feed you. My father's spirit just came to my mind. And I told him, I said, no, I would prefer to die than to commit a crime. Because that's what my father told me. The truth should be the way of your life. Even if you make a mistake, you say it. Honesty would save your life, because that's the way he has been brought up. So wherever you go, if there's anything, the truth, honesty, tell the truth, and so on, it will save you. So I told the police, I said, look, this is what I inherited from my father. If you want to help me, help me. But if you say I should commit a crime, I will not. And the police were shocked. But one of them just said they've never had this. And they decided to feed me for free.
Wow.
Finally, what happened? With all my begging here and my working here, whatever, I was looking for anything to do. I would work, even if it means carrying shit, because in those days, there were no toilets where you flush. You know, I even went for those tests and so on. So I was doing all types of things. And the little money that I was getting, I was always tying it around my waist. Criminality was not as bad as it is today. But I always tied it around my waist. And I was still taking exams. Then I took an exam and passed to Ahmadiyya College. The little money I had, this is a Muslim secondary school, a Muslim high school in Agege. The little money I had, I was able to pay for the first year. And when it came, my father was hearing this at home. He said, no, my son should come back. He is suffering, he's begging, this and that. How can it be? I am here, the president of the coffee cooperative here. How can my son be doing this and so on? So by the second year, then I told the principal, well, there's no way, if I manage to finish this year, I have to go. And I finished the year and I was top of the class.
Wow.
And there were things that went on in the school I didn't even know. Whatever job was available, anybody wanting anything, I will always volunteer. I will always volunteer to do things, anything they wanted to be done, anywhere. They would call, say, what is Wilfred, what is Asombang, that Cameroonian? And so people thought that I was a beggar and so on, but the performance in school in the secondary school was simply incredible. Because for instance, in Arabic, I was the third in a class of more than 30 Muslims. And they couldn't believe this. And the gap between me and the second person was 100. And so they said, no, this one, instead of going to Form 2, we should push him to Form 3. But I told the principal that I don't have money, I'm going back to Cameroon. He said, okay, we'll think about it. I think he went and worked out. So then they told me, you are not going anywhere because of the type of person you've been. Most sincere, most truthful, most hard-working person, and so devoted. They said that there's no student here who can compare with you. And in the classrooms, you're doing so well that I can't imagine it. They've even decided that instead of you going to Form 2, they should give you double promotion. You go to Form 3. They'll promote you to Form 3, and they will give you a scholarship. They said the school. It turned out that they told me that the fee that has been paid was contributed by teachers on their own.
Wow.
But now there's someone called M.A. Fagwai, a building contractor, who also had children in that school, in the Ahmadiyya College. And the children were talking too much about me and so on, and that he decided that he would give me a scholarship. For the first time, I was able to wear sandals, Clark sandals. Because for the first 2 years in secondary school, I was barefooted, no shoes, nothing, barefooted. I didn't have books. So the library I had the key to the library. They said you can be in the library anytime.
Right.
And so on. And so because of I got the scholarship, because again of hard work and honesty and integrity and humility, preparedness to help, to work with anybody for always for free, but they always give me something at the end. And then at that time too, I also had the Bible as my pillow. The Bible, the Bible as my pillow in a Muslim, a Muslim school, and the Muslims had no objection, nothing. They just accepted me, everything that I was doing. And instead of going to do a high school for, then there was 6 years, they reduced to 5. I did secondary school only for 4 years and got my West African school certificate, or called it the Cambridge certificate. And because I was in charge of the library, of the laboratory, they nicknamed me Doctor. Whenever they wanted anything to be cleaned from the laboratory, whether it was a guinea pig that was slaughtered, or it was flies, or any of these cockroaches, anything that was dirty there, guinea pigs, which I will always be the first to go say I want to clean it. So they also gave me the key to the laboratory. And started calling me doctor. And that's what, when it was almost getting to the end of, when I finished the exams, I said I wanted to do medicine. And the person who had given me the scholarship said, well, I could help, but I also have children with you. There's no way I can help you to go to medical school. What I'll do is, I'm prepared to give you a transport so that you can go back to Cameroon and then continue your life from there. And that's what happened. I left Nigeria in early 1961. And was back in Cameroon, in Kumba, where one of my uncles, Daniel Yamnum, is fortunately still alive. He made me to join him in tapping palm wine. So I was a palm wine tapper too, in Kumba, with the Techaba. And by then, my elder brother was in the bush, somewhere in the bush in Kumba. And every time we were tapping this wine, would tap and come and sell in Kumba, Achah Quarters, in those days. It was 1961. And when in Achah Quarters, somebody started in this church said, oh, there was a metal group there. He said, how? We understand this man from Nigeria and that he has a school certificate. How can you people make him a wine tapper, going to the farm and tapping wine and so on? And so they said, but what do you want us to do? Someone said, oh, there is Chief Mukete here. He is the chairman of the Cameroon Development Corporation. Can we not take this man to him? I said, this is someone who has a whole certificate from Nigeria. Can you get him a job in the CDC? And so that's how my uncle, he decided that he would take me to Chief Mukete's palace. And Chief Mukete received me very well and asked for my papers. Fortunately, the person at M.A. Fagwai had arranged and sent me my certificates and so on. Then I took to Mukete. Mukete said, what? You have high school, secondary school, college, the secondary school college certificate with all these science things and so on, biology, health science, all this passing in this? No. You go from Kumba here, go to the general manager of the CDC and tell him that I have sent you. He gave me a note.
Right. So let's, Grandad, let's take a little step back and explain to the non-Cameroonians what all this who all these people and what all these places are. So you said the Meta people. So Meta people, that's basically the tribe, the people from the tribe, right?
Right.
So that's where you are from, that's where we are all from, the part of, Cameroon that you were born and where we are from. Now, CDC is a Cameroon Development Corporation, and I think you would probably be at a better position to explain that. And then Chief Mukete back then was the chief of what region in Cameroon?
Kumba.
Okay. Okay.
Kumba is one of the provinces.
Okay. And how will you describe the CDC?
The CDC was actually known as Colonial Development Corporation before 1960, before the plebiscite period. I mean, before we left Nigeria, it was known as Colonial Development Corporation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when Nigeria became free, and Cameroon was now southwest Cameroon. They then decided that instead of continuing to call it Colonial Development Corporation, they should now call it Cameroon Development Corporation. So the CDC thing was still remaining. Mm-hmm. And it was actually it was based not far from the headquarters was not far from the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. The Atlantic Ocean with the border with Nigeria. And the East Cameroon, or French Cameroon in those days. Mm-hmm. You see? Mm-hmm. That is the CDC. It was very close to the Atlantic Ocean. Mm-hmm. And where I came from was very far up north Cameroon. Yeah. So this was it was first colonial, and then it became Cameroon Development Corporation. Right. And actually it was agricultural. It had all the agricultural products, in Cameroon. So the Cameroon Development Corporation.
Right. So Chief Mukete told you to take your application there.
Yeah, he said to take my application to the headquarters, the gentleman of the Cameroon Development Corporation, and tell him that based on my credentials, they should find me a job. He didn't say what job. He just said, because he happened to be a chairman, he was more political. Because when I was in Nigeria, he was already a minister in the House of Assembly. Can you imagine, in Parliament, Nigerian Parliament? Mm-hmm. But when we now became on our own, we separated from Nigeria when they got their independence. And I was in Nigeria actually at the time of independence. I was one of the prefects in the school.
Wow.
And so we got independence. So now Mukete is a globe now. Then when I went to general manager, and general manager happens to be, he was a white man at the time, and I went there, he said, oh, okay. He looked at my papers and said, we need a research assistant. And there was, you would have to go to TICO because they needed a research assistant. First of all, they want one in rubber trees, mm-hmm. and then cocoa trees. They wanted bananas, and they wanted one also in palm trees. So would you mind? Would you accept a position as a research assistant? Given your the certificate you have quite a science subject like the chemistry, physics, biology, and so on. You were all in there. So I said yes, why not? And that's how I got into the CDC as a research assistant in TICO. And I had 20 people to work who I was going to boss them.
Yeah, they were your subordinates.
Most of them were like my father.
Oh.
Because they used to call me Mosquito. I mean, you can do that kind of the thing, And so because I asked one to climb a tree to go and take the leaves so that we can take to the lab and see how they'll be analyzed. They will say, Mosquito, you are our boss, but you climb. We cannot climb this thing. You are tiny. You can climb. You are the boss. So, those are some of the interesting things.
Yeah.
So anyway, I from there, then a position came for a higher position came for a field management trainee. And so they say, oh, because of your performance as a research assistant, now we would give you this job, but you go for interview. I went again for interview and I succeeded. So they appointed me as a field management trainee in Moliwe. And my boss from there was from England, was from Europe as well, And so it was now from 20 people, I have to supervise 1,000 or more, And so through the CDC from Moliwe, I went to Idinau, which is next to Nigeria. And there, while I was doing this, while in Moliwe there, it occurred to me. I said, oh, my colleagues had finished from Sase and Bali. They are going to universities because they have their GC advanced level.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there was no way I could do anything, so I started looking here and there. I came to discover Rapid Reserves College in the UK, and they said, okay, and so if you pay, they'll send you the tuition materials, because London University, you prepare for London University exam, GC advanced level. And so that's why I decided my own again. I said, no, how can my colleagues, they are going into these places and I don't have, if I stop work, where will I go, So I said, I have to work and study.
Yeah.
Work and study. And that's how I was working in Moliwe. I was working and studying. What people were doing, they were taking 2 years, 3 years, 2 or 3 years. So finish GCA level. I took 1 year and I was ready for the exam.
Wow.
While working. And then I passed with three papers by the time I was being sent to Idinau. I was the only one in the country at the time with 3 A levels. Mm-hmm. And that's how, when I got to Idinau, after some time, I just said, no, I think I want to join the government, the civil service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, then I was recruited as assistant commercial officer. So I had to quit the CDC to Boya. Efange was the permanent secretary then. Mm-hmm. And the interesting thing was that at that time when I got there, the people I was being interviewed with, one of them happens to be my teacher in primary school in Mbengwi, the first year. Mm-hmm. So we met at the interview and he said, my goodness, me and you are for the same interview. He said, no way. He said, this is your baby and that type of thing. So he gave up even before we went into the interview room. He said, I'm going to do better. And that's how I was selected. And I was then in the government, in the Ministry of Commerce, Labor, Industry, and so on. And it was from there that there's so many other things, because we took a lot of stories, because we took exam to go to the US. I do there. Then the Indian one came. Then I was selected to go to India from the Ministry of Industry.
Right.
That's how I went to India. Then in '64, I think that was when I went.
Right, and then you got your bachelor's, and I got my bachelor's in the commerce, and returned home. And when I returned home, I went to government. Mm-hmm. And there was a big struggle for everyone wanting Asombang, that type of thing. And I ended up, first of all, I first went to, the Americans wanted to give some aid, and they thought, they had that there's some decent corruption-free person here, and they identified me.
as a corruption-free person. And so even the ministry where I was, they still gave me a project aided by the Americans to dig a road from CDC headquarters, the coast, to Oboya through the bush.
Wow.
With the equipment and all that. And that's what I did. I did all that. And while again, then things became a bit political, because when they appointed me, Joa was in power, and again they wanted someone to decentralize the ministries.
Mm-hmm.
So Achah Division was handed to me. I was appointed secretary. I went to Achah, and then they also appointed me to take charge of the election of Ahijo when I was in Achah.
Yeah. And Ahijo was the then president before president of Cameroon.
Cameroon, yes. Yeah. Ahijo was the then president of Cameroon. And during the elections, this was the biggest trial again of the corruption that went on. People were, what they was calling Ahijo, 90%, 99%, and so on. Somewhere I put 35% here, I put 20% here. Then the senior division officer at that time, he was from Bamenda, he called me and said, "My small brother, you are going to die. Don't even try to put down that you counted and they're only 20%. People are putting 99%. You are the only one who has put down what you actually found. Please, quickly do what other people are doing if you want to be alive. And I don't want to be here. When your people will hear that a man who is senior division officer saw a Mbengwi man who did not follow the rules of the game, that he has been killed, they are going to hold me responsible." So at that, as the officer in charge, it was really one of those things that I did, which I said, I told him, I said, okay, I'm going to do what things are, but I'm not going to continue in government service. I would rather go back to the CDC than do what I'm seeing is happening with the elections.
Right.
I don't think I can manage it. So Mokete then he was still the chairman of the CDC. And now then I said, oh, well, they actually need someone. They need a commercial. They needed a commercial manager because the one who is there is going to retire and so on, and they don't have anyone. So maybe you apply for that job, and you'll be seconded from government to the CDC. You'll be seconded. So someone, the senior divisional, and those who sympathize with my position, my position that I could not handle the political corruption that was going on.
Yeah.
They were able to say, okay, we'll look at your papers, okay, you have a degree in commerce and so on, you've been in government. And even when I was the electoral officer, Mokete was surprised that when I came to appointing people to supervise elections, I appointed him. He got so mad. He said, how can you, designate me? Because I had to sign the cards for everyone who was in the elections. And so what happened? So anyway, I got back to the CDC as a commercial officer.
Right.
And then by then, late Ngu, John Nibangu is late now. He was now the general manager. And so they were able to manage me. They made me, first of all, a secretary to the board of directors in Mukete's office. And when they found that the commercial manager was about to retire, they said, no, since I have a degree in commerce, I should get back to the commerce office. So I was transferred from Mukete's office, where I was a board secretary, back to be with the commercial manager.
Right.
And it was at the commercial manager's place that they said, oh, they wanted someone who was disciplined and, had integrity to go to Tico and become the supply manager when Gembu, who was there. They were thinking not right. He needed someone. And so I moved from Bota to Tico to help in the supplies department of the CDC. Again, I wasn't. I started applying again for scholarships to do my MBA.
Yeah.
I applied for scholarships, and at one point, I was one of those that went for interview, and then I was one of those selected. But then, some other person who was selected from the WHO and the CDC, he went to America. And the results came, my name did not show up. So I wrote to the president, Ahijo then. By then, the President Biya, he was the Secretary General in the President's office.
Mm-hmm.
I wrote to complain that, I attended the interview and I thought I was selected. Why? What has happened? That this same Biya, who was this thing in Ahijo's office, he wrote to me. The letter was actually signed. It is somewhere in history. I tell you, it is somewhere at home. He signed it saying that go to the Minister of Education and find out why you didn't go to America last year, because according to the minutes in his office, in the president's office, I was one of the candidates selected for the MBA because that was in the plan of the government that they wanted MBA holders because there was none. They didn't have.
Yeah.
And I was selected. So he was shocked to hear that I'm in Cameroon. Why are you still here? I thought you are coming back. So I took the letter to the Yaoundé there, to the Minister of Education. Oh, that's when he got so mad. Who told you to go to the president, to write something to the president, and so on? But why something that I just told him, I said, well, this is the letter from BA, the Secretary General, to the president. When he saw that, he just immediately, they sent a cable to Boya to get me a passport and everything.
Yeah.
And they gave me to go back. To go back and then get ready to go to America.
Right. And for those who don't know, Mr. Paul Biya back then was the Secretary General, and he has been the president of Cameroon since, I believe, 1982.
82, yeah. It's not the same Biya that I knew then. It's not the same Biya. He was for justice. And at the time Ahijo was handing over to him, you know what happened in Bamenda? They said New Deal government, New Deal. They actually wrote even on the roads because Biya was coming in.
Yeah.
They said they were expecting a New Deal that was going to be better than Ahijo.
Right.
And if I were one of those, I would say it was better because I imagine that he signed a letter as Secretary General and the letter took effect and I ended up in America.
Right. And how long were you in America for?
So what has happened, it is only God who knows what really has destroyed that man's mind because he was good.
Right. Now
So
it makes sense why people wanted him in power, because I believe they were expecting that he was going to be better.
You thought he was going to do better.
Yeah.
So then I think in 71, I was supposed to have... Actually, I was supposed to have gone in 70, but it's 71. That one, August, I think around August. I landed in Minnesota. In the university in Minnesota, Minneapolis, because there are two high campuses. One in the Minneapolis campus. And what happened in Minnesota was most interesting because as far as my education life is concerned, even my whole life, I am colorblind. I don't know anything about color or anything. I'm just colorblind.
Mm-hmm.
And but it showed up in Minnesota then.
Racism. You experienced racism for the first time.
Yeah, for the first time. I didn't even realize it. It was the academic advisor who pointed out that this was the problem. And the problem was that I was the only black person in the MBA classrooms. And what happened was the women were handling the academic records. Practically 100% of them were white. And most of them, the people I was going to be dealing with, they have never, as this man was explaining to me, they had never spoken to a black man. And so for the first time, they see a black student. Mm-hmm. So each time I enter the office to try to find out, they all ran away. They disappeared. You see?
Wow.
So that's what when I reported to the foreign, the person who was in charge of student advisor. I said, but what's happening? Each time I go to the office, this is what happens. So he told me then that, actually, you don't know it. You don't know it. Actually, my going to US, I first went under the experiment in international living. So I was in Connecticut before going to Minnesota. Mm-hmm. That one I just left out. And so he said, you don't know it. But what I can tell you is that if you were to remain here, the chances of getting an MBA within the time, they were very slim. You see? It was under the scholarship program that even Minnesota was chosen on me. I wasn't the one who said this is where the university I want to go to.
Yeah.
So it was under the scholarship program that's where they wanted me to be. And while I was in the program, the part of it was, for instance, to interview. We're doing human resources, and so one of the requirements was that you have to interview. They had the tape recorders. These recorders, we will record them. You go into the streets and interview people. And as I interviewed people, there was no evidence that there was discrimination, because instead people were very anxious, happy to come to me to ask me questions,
right,
or for me to ask them questions. So I didn't even realize that there was something of that nature. It was the advisor who told me that there is discrimination here. The thing is that it's not visible on the streets. In the way the program in which you are, you happen to be the only black students, and the academic office, they are not used to. So that's why each time you want to go and follow up your things in the office, the women, the secretary, they run away. They say that if you cannot feel very free in the office, they cannot attend to you. Then how it will be difficult for you to if you have any challenges, then it will be difficult for you to look at your records and so on.
Yeah.
So he advised. I said, okay, in that case, what do you want me to do? You see? Say, what do you want me to do? Then he said he has presented this matter. Because to tell you the most interesting thing, for instance, was that since they actually wanted me to do, there were some courses that I had to do. But there were volunteer students, PhD students and so on, who were volunteering to teach me. So there was no, as far as the streets are concerned and the people and so on, there was no, I didn't feel anything at all. It was only then when this fellow pointed out to me that there was a problem which you don't know, but he knew about it and so on. So he was saying that he's trying to look for a university where that would evaluate your program, your things, and if they accept you. So that he had presented this specific problem to some deans of various universities. And to cut a long story short, he said Arizona, University of Arizona in Tucson, the dean there said, given your records, your academic loan records, and so on, they were prepared to accept you. And so they then, I said, okay, I don't even know, wherever you want me to go, I'll go. And so they then organized for me in that 72, that I've just been in Arizona from August or so, 71 to January. But then they said, okay, the government then had also plans for sending foreign students to various regions. And so they said, okay, we'll send to Nebraska. You go and join there. The people are prepared to host you and so on. You'll go and join them. So I was sent to Nebraska and so on. Where in Iowa, I was given honorary citizenship.
Right.
Of this and so on. And so to try everything started, I didn't even know about all these background things until when I got to Arizona and I was interviewed about discrimination in the US. There's a whole report on that, even now. One of my daughters managed to find it.
Wow.
And said, oh, this is what you were doing even in the 70s? I said, well, you see, they really feel Achah is the one who found it.
Right.
Found the part of the interview that I had in Arizona that included things about Minnesota. That is when I became aware that, there was discrimination.
Right.
But one of the interview questions was, how have you managed it? And I told them that before I came here, I knew that there's discrimination against the blacks and whites and so on. There's discrimination. But that I didn't come here to change the society. What I came here for was for education. So wherever there were rules, I followed them. And that is how I got on,
Right.
And so Arizona, that was when I completed my MBA within record time. And so I still had a period where I could do the MS. So I had the MBA. Then I decided to go to agriculture to do things like, that's why this guy was doing greenhouse thing.
Yes, Roland.
Roland, yes. When we were talking about greenhouse, I was just smiling because that's one of the things I did in University of Arizona, Tucson there, And that's why I'm very much familiar with the whole thing. So I completed MBA, and then I said, since I have this time and the resources, because I started working even on weekends, they were not allowed. But then they said, since I finished my MBA and there was time, I started the MS in agriculture economics. And as part of my training, I booked with the World Bank. Since the World Bank was sponsoring the CDC, you see, now then they put a record that they wanted to have an internship. The World Bank, IBRD. They say, okay. So that was arranged from the University of Arizona for me to go to Washington D.C. with the World Bank and so on, and I did that, and then went back and got my my 2 degrees, and then returned to Cameroon. I returned to the Cameroon Development Corporation. I was actually when I joined the training, I said, they were thinking that they wanted to make you the deputy general manager. They want to make you the general manager. And so case studies on Cameroon will not be given to you. They gave me case studies on Ghana and Nigeria and other West African countries.
Right.
And as I went back to CDC, I was made was made financial director, and I was made management accountant. But I was now dealing with those who are World Bank to negotiate these loans and do things, provide money and all types of things to the CDC and other development things in Cameroon, research reports. And so I became the focal point for that, the management accountant. And while I was doing the Nibango, he was he became the manager, general manager also. I was financial director and to become the general manager. And so what happened during the time I was management accountant, it occurred to me. Then they appointed me also, they said credit control. I was in charge of the credit control. While I was a management accountant, I used to I was very good at attending churches and so on, and helping. I was helping. There was a time they said, "Oh, they wanted people to take refugees from Namibia and other countries who were attending church and didn't have where to be going for help and so on." And I volunteered. I was always volunteering because while in the CDC, imagine that was the greatest time I ever had. Well, I was teaching in Buea, I was teaching in Douala, and then I was also teaching in Limbe there, the Pan-African Institute. I was one of the lecturers part-time. Then the University Center in Yaoundé in Douala, I was also a lecturer. And at that time, Cameroon had this provision for that those who had these high degrees, they should be given the opportunity to share knowledge, to help other institutions. And that so there was not much, they did not restrict me that because you are full-time here, you cannot go to teach at the university in Yaoundé, in Douala, or you cannot go to Buea, the Pan-African Institute. So I had that freedom. In fact, it would be interesting to know that I was getting more money from the teaching than from these places than my salary from the CDC then, So that was one of the most interesting things. So while I was, like I was saying, I was helping a lot of people. And at one point in time, some Namibian students, refugees, they said, "Oh, the way you have been so helpful to us and the way we see you helping so many other refugees. We come to your place to eat and so on. In the church, you also help us. Have you heard of the United Nations Institute for Namibia?" I said, "No." They said, "Are you not interested in the United Nations job?" I said, "Well, I'm satisfied you have a free house, a free car, and all this. You know how the CDC was really very generous in those days.
Mm-hmm.
Not later on, no."
Mm-hmm.
So I said, they said, "No, we think that you can help us. You can help our colleagues in Namibia. The way you are really handling the situation, how hardworking, how helpful, and so on, how humanitarian. Can you please? We have spoken to our director, and he says, okay, they have vacancies. You apply. There's a vacancy for a head of economic department. Can you apply?" So I applied. That's how I ended up here for interview in 1977. But when I came for the interview, the interesting thing was that the ANC and the SWAPO and the other liberation movements in this part of the continent, they also had their own people lecturing. They were already professors in America here and there. They also applied. And so when I got the interview, Adedeji was then the Secretary General of the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa. He was the chairman. And the director of the United Nations Institute, who happens to be a Namibian, Gengop, he's the president of Namibia now, actually. He preferred me with an MD and MSc than the people with PhD from the US and so on. But the other members of the panel said, "No, how can we? Okay, we'll take your word, but we'll give some time. We would think that the one with PhD from South African and was working with Mandela and so on, we think that he should be the head. He should fill that position. If there's any other position is there, you can then give it to him." And at that time, there was no other position. So they gave it to a South African. And when I got home, the results came. Well, they were the ones who paid the ticket. They were the ones paying everything. Mm-hmm. The results came, and the Gengop, the director then, he then explained to me, actually even told those students, but when the students came, the students who were refugees in the church there, and when they came to my place, they said they were surprised that I couldn't get the job. But that the director, they explained to me what happened. That yes, I got the job as the head, but that because of the politics, the ANC and the SWAPO, since the SWAPO was being held by the ANC, they had to consider their candidate and so on. And the candidate happens to be from Jones University in the States. He had been a professor there. And I wasn't a professor myself, even though I had experience in teaching in Cameroon and so on.
Yeah.
So they, to cut a long story short, they then said, okay, they said that when there's any opposition, they will consider me. Then in 78, next year, the director wrote to me and said, oh, there is a position for a lecturer. So, and you will be under the head, the person with whom you attend an interview. You know, he will be your boss. But I personally, I think from the performance, the interview results show that you did better. But all the same, would you be ready to be under this person? That very much need your service, because the services we here are rendering there, if you can render to our students here, I think it will be wonderful. And that the minister at the time, who was also at the interview, he said he is prepared that you could be his economic advisor. He said he's even prepared to, if you accept this position, just a lecturer, not a head. Yeah, so once I received the invitation to take another position as a lecturer instead of head of the department, well, because of my commitment to serving, which I was in Cameroon, I was teaching everywhere. I even wrote some book on commerce and so on, which students liked very much. So I had to apply to the CDC then to say I wanted 1 year to be away for 1 year, because I was given a contract as a lecturer for 1 year. And CDC granted. Nebangu, then he was in charge, he granted for 1 year. And I paid my ticket. I was back here in 79, I was back just less than 2 years. I was back here in 79 as a lecturer in the economics department.
And what country is that? What country were you in back then?
Zambia. Lusaka,
okay.
Zambia.
Okay.
Yeah, working for United Nations Institute for Namibia. United Nations Institute for Namibia. As a lecturer, economics, and then advisor, of course, like I said, to the then minister, de facto market minister in charge of economic development, which is going to be after independence. And so I landed here in 79 and then joined the institute, the United Nations Institute for Namibia, and then during the experience I was having, I found that when it came to appointment, the director would want to appoint me as take charge of the research, research report. But then someone will say, oh no, the deputy director who happened to come from Tanzania, he would say, no, we have somebody here who has a PhD, and this is a person with PhD. We should be the secretary of the research committee. So again, I say again, this PhD thing has stopped me from being head of department, and now it's stopping me again from being a secretary of the research committee.
Right.
So I said, what is all this, So I said, no way. Why can't I do PhD myself? Then I wanted to do it with the University of Tanzania and Dar es Salaam, or even University of Zambia here. But the choice I was making, I felt that there are certain things which if I find out and I put them, I'll be kicked out of the country. So I tried with Britain. First of all, I tried, then I was accepted in 84. I was accepted to do the PhD by University of Wales in Aberystwyth. Now, of course, before the acceptance, I had to go there for interview. More or less, they call it a workshop, an interview. So I had to organize a workshop. I went there and they interviewed me. So when I came back, I sent out the results and said, yes, I could be registered for the PhD. And that's what I did in 84. And came back and continued as senior lecturer at the United Nations Institute of Namibia while I was doing my PhD off campus. And it was on the CDC. CDC and the economic development, smallholders and the economic development of Cameroon, the role of the CDC and what changes could be made. Actually, it ended up with like development and privatization type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to Britain and they conducted a workshop, a seminar at which I had to present on the economy of Namibia. And then those who attended from the university, they approved. They said, yes, I was qualified for PhD. So I came back and then continued, made the questionnaire, which is approved. I came to Cameroon, went to Yaoundé, interviewed people to finish the questionnaire. And then I came back and then used the data. Then went back to Britain when I had leave to stay in the library, do research, and so on. And so, come 1988, this was already somebody was in his 46, 40 something like that years. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
I went there to the Viva. And Viva was in University of Leicester.
Mm-hmm. Leicester,
Yeah, and in Leicester, the director, the person there, he happened to be the one who also interviewed the person the institute appointed as the secretary of the research committee because of his PhD. In the process, this person asked me, do you know this person? I said, yes, he's my colleague. He said, yeah, but you seem to have performed better than he did in those years. I said, well, that's not what they think at the institute. That's why I said, that's why I was had to do the PhD. And one of the interesting things was that there was something I said about Britain that my supervisor advised me to take it out. And so if you keep it in this, you expect to get a PhD from a country that you destroyed through your analysis.
Right.
So anyway, by the time I got back here, the results of the Viva, this was my second Viva, The first one was a workshop, and this one was actually person to person.
Mm-hmm.
The results had already come out that I got my PhD.
Nice.
The director here, when the thing came, he jumped up and said, "This is what I said when you came here for interview more than 5 years ago. I said you are the one. Now you see,
Right.
you proved me right that you're a PhD material."
Right.
But they didn't agree with me. Now it's so I'm just gang up. He said he wasn't now. He only proved him right. That was a PhD material
Right.
at the time.
Nice.
And then now Namibia was going to get independence in 1990. And now Fange was who used to attend meetings, even Adedeji, who used to attend board meetings at the United Nations of Namibia. They say, well, if I could apply, I could apply for United Nations job, there are vacancies at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, then I can move from here to Addis. And that's what happened. I think around October or something, when I applied, I had an interview with the UNDP, and the UNDP, they were quite surprised that why is it that, you are applying for a P3, where you have been P3 for all these years, instead of being a P4. So I told them that I have a family, if I was going for a higher money and I remain unemployed, what happens to my family?
Right.
What happens to my family? And so they said, okay, in that case, you've been selected to go to Economic Commission for Africa. You've succeeded in the interview for administrative officer. And the result got to Addis, and they said, no, how can it be that other people are interviewed in Addis and you interview this one in Lusaka and say he succeeded? We want him here to be interviewed. So they had to pay for me to go to there for interview. And
that's Addis Ababa, Ethiopia.
Yeah, then I went to BAout Ethiopia, and I was there October 89, after a little more than 10 years of service here.
Right.
So I went there, and I was in the Department of Public Administration and development.
Right.
Was there, and so I joined in after 2 years. Now I was with the Adedeji. Since he was here, he insisted that I must be working with him all the time. And so we started this program of AAF, Alternative African for Development. It was under Adedeji. So he started, we did the studies he would want me to be in. I was always with him and so on. But the head of the department where they recruited me, they insisted that no, how can we brought this man here because we wanted him to be here. Now you've taken him. But instead, the new Secretary General of African Union, they said they wanted somebody who was very honest and straightforward to take charge of the recruitment of staff. United Nations Economic Commission, they wanted a chief of recruitment. And they said, okay, they'll move me there for 1 year. The boss said no, and they resisted, but of course the boss New York approved that I should be chief of recruitment. So
wow.
I got there. People like Fombang who retired in Yaoundé would, they know my performance as chief of recruitment and personnel chief, the Economic Commission for Africa,
Yeah.
And while there, now we had some Ghanaian who became the Secretary of Economic Commission from Africa, and he very much wanted me to take charge of procurement of all types of things for the commission. And I said no, I wanted a P5 position, and since you don't want to give me a P5 position, I will not accept it. And I said, okay, this is very troubling. I will send it to Kigali, Rwanda. I ended up in Rwanda. There's the acting head of the United Nations mission for Eastern Africa. 14 countries.
Wow.
So while there, while it was temporary, and they said they had to appoint somebody else. Because they said, how can they make me a director? So they decided to send someone from Burkina or Ouagadougou, They sent somebody to take over. And while he was trying to take over from me as the director of the office, I was acting director, I was not substantive. New York wanted some peacekeeper. They wanted someone to be in peacekeeping. And the peacekeeper, he was going to be appointed to go to Burundi. So they called and asked me if I was interested. I said yes. So I ended up as chief administrative officer in Burundi. And that was under the United Nations. Because later on, I came under the African Union. When I retired, they appointed me. That was the first duty station with African Union in 2002.
Yeah.
It was the African Union. But way back in, way back I was in Burundi, in Rwanda. From Rwanda to Burundi. Then I went from there. I went to so many other missions.
Yeah.
I went to South Africa for the elections, the Mandela elections. South Africa, I went to Georgia, Tbilisi. That's in the Soviet Union. Then I went to East Timor. That's where I ended East Timor when they were fighting there.
Yeah.
That's where your mother joined me.
Yeah, I remember she started off in East Timor.
Yes. That's when she joined me there as a volunteer doctor, and then she as usual, she had to do a master's degree in public health at the University of Australia in Darwin.
Australia.
In Darwin, you see. So it's very a lot of other things which I think I'll bring them in later on.
Yeah.
And it was from East Timor that I retired, went back to ECA for my retirement, and immediately the African Union recruited me 2002 to be the chief administrative officer in Burundi again. And then from Burundi, they had Sudan problem. They wanted someone to help to establish. In fact, by the time I left, they were calling me the father of AMIS, the father of African mission in Sudan.
Wow.
So that's how. And then, of course, after my retirement, I ended up here now. I'm now free as a freelance economist, development specialist.
Wow. That's such a story. Oh my goodness. That's a whole history lesson. I'm super grateful.
Yeah, if I were to go into detail, we'll take another one.
Yeah. I mean, I'm so grateful that you shared this with me. And there were so many lessons that I could pick up from your story. First off, the whole importance of hard work. I mean, just from you speaking, I mean, I know you, of course, I've known you all my life, but for someone who doesn't know you, they can pick up a few values from you: integrity, humility, hard work, and just persistence, and based on your story, one of the questions I had based on my conversation with my mother was, I always wonder, like, what really made you influence my mother to make certain decisions and to go all the way to the level that she is to pursue medicine, despite the stereotypes against women being educated in an advanced way, especially in their generation and things like that. But based off of your story, I can definitely understand why you made sure that she pursued medicine, why you made sure that she had a very advanced level of education and everything. So I'm super grateful for that. And I know that she is definitely grateful for all the lessons and all the influence that you've had in her life, for sure. So basically, of all your accomplishments, what are you most proud of?
Well, what I'm most proud of is the fact that what I've had in mind, the proactive humanitarian approach, where your hard work, your integrity, your determination to succeed has led to the accomplishment of not only your success in the various fields that I've mentioned, but the fact that you have passed on. You've more or less enabled others to now go on with what you were to continue to do if you were to live forever, and everybody has to go. And so I have, if it comes like, I think one of the questions was, how do you want to be remembered for? I would say I have already been remembered because helping, my own determination to help others through showing them to that hard work is a priority, showing them that humility is important, showing them that integrity, especially integrity, honesty, is important, and that helping people is my primary concern, and that almost those I have been able to bring up. Mm-hmm. They have all continued with that. Your mother is the first one.
Yeah.
The amount, when she was talking in the Dakar, I was feeling so good.
Yeah.
Because for her to become a doctor, you wouldn't imagine that you have two daughters, her senior sister and herself, and you take them and put them when you're going to America and say, tell me, what do you want to do? Beatrice, what do you want to do? Do you want you go to school or want to get married? Beatrice says, no, I want to get married. Grace, do you want to go to school or want to get married? He said, no, I want to go to school first.
Yeah.
And she remembered that they were calling me doctor. And so it was her choice. But that choice was, I gave them the liberty. And that's what I do. That you have to work hard, you have the liberty to make decisions, and then to be able to help people, to help others. And that's what your mother has done. That is my greatest pride.
Yeah.
Happen to have a husband. That is my greatest pride. I have a husband who is also the same spirit. And she didn't marry him the way you girls do. You go and meet it did not even in our days of marriages, you cannot just go to the girl. You go to the parents.
Yeah.
And that's why you go to parents. But she made a choice herself to go to education. Her sister made a choice to get married. She made a choice for education, and the choice was to do what I did not do, medicine.
Yeah.
She knew that that's what Daddy wanted to do, and that's what she wanted. So she's carrying on. And what has happened? Akwi is there. Ma is here.
Yeah.
You are there. Ma is in South Africa.
Yes.
You see? So even the orphans, the number of orphans she has her and husband have been able to bring up.
Yeah.
And so it is. So I would have said, when I saw this page, I said, oh, I'm already remembered.
Yeah.
I'm already remembered to help humanity.
Yeah.
Through my own hard work.
Yeah.
I have this. See, more or less, it is inherited practically every aspect of my life.
Yeah.
You know, promoting, making sure that people who are in need. It doesn't matter whether you're black or white or Cameroon or any other nationality. You're human. And so your mother is that clear example. Commitment to people, helping people to being proactive, That has been, it's a living, that is my personal memory. And the children are already showing it. They all, they are all there. Helping, firstly, help yourself through hard work, determination, and integrity, and then helping others.
Yeah.
It is not, there are instances, for instance, where in order to be able to bring up these children, what would the United Nations? I had all the opportunity to enjoy myself, fly first class and so on, but I will always go third class. I will go to places where there are hotels like in the Congo there. People were paying 200. I paid 200 for the first night. Then I asked somebody, say, yeah, there's a place where you can pay 50. And I decided to go into the 50. Then because the other money I would then use to, not to do myself, I will use it to help other people,
Yeah.
So it's then my hard work, honesty, integrity, humility, they more or less have earned me what earned me the scholarship in Nigeria. It was somebody he was not my father, my mother, and so on.
Yeah.
But co-recommended that we've never seen a hardworking, humble, honest, anytime something was wrong, people denying it, he would say, yes, I was involved.
Yeah.
They said that they could not imagine such a person.
Right. So, I know your story, one thing that also stood out to me was, coming from basically almost nothing. And even with your story in Nigeria, how you were bare feet, you were homeless too. Yeah. It's not like you didn't have a home back in Cameroon, but like you just had a very, very high level of tenacity and just passion and focus towards what you were pursuing, that even if it had to take for you to be homeless, you would have done it. You were that desperate, willing to be homeless to pursue your dreams, which most of us, especially in this time and age, will not even want to do that. I feel like we're a very spoiled generation, and we have so much at our fingertips that we don't even realize how blessed we are when compared to prior generations. And I know, your legacy for sure has been passed on even to us. There are a lot of attributes from my mom, which I could see in you as well. So you're definitely still remembered, especially through us. And it's most especially what I remember you for, it was just for your kindness as well. Every time, I remember when I was in primary school, every time you came to visit, you always brought us so many gifts, and you always gave us money. You always gave us $100. I can never forget. $100 back then was like probably like $1,000 now, and it was just one of those things that we always looked forward to you coming to visit. And you always spoke to us. We were very young, but at least you tried to, just talk to us as our grandpa and advise us and stuff like that. So we're super grateful. And again, we're always going to be grateful for you raising our mother to be who she is today, because most of her attributes were learned from you. Now, like I said, going back to the fact that you had little and you made the most out of it. In this time, this is such an interesting time to be alive, with social media and, technology has just blown off the roof, and there's so many things that life is going so fast. And at the same time, a lot of people are exposed to so many things, Back then you had mentioned writing a letter to President Pobia, then Secretary General, to complain and petition for your admission into a program in the US. But I can imagine it probably took almost a month or two for that letter to get to him. But now you just have a click and boom, everyone is exposed to your life. Everyone knows what you're going through and stuff like that. And social media as well has been influenced by a lot of negativity. And a lot of people are not happy with their lives. A lot of people are not content because there's so much exposure to what's better. And people forget to look at their lives and see how blessed they are and to see how they can use what they have to get what they need or what they want, which is what you did growing up because you didn't have much, but you used what you had to get to where you were. Now, what kind of advice will you give to the people of this current generation and basically the young ones who are very influenced by social media and everything that comes with it?
We must thank you very much for the compliments you've given me that I've even forgotten how I used to visit you guys.
Right.
That is just a part of me, instinct.
Yeah.
They're just instinctive. Yes. For the present generation, we must have our mindset is very important, and we know that change is unstoppable. Change is unstoppable. Change, first of all, the change from being a family, just families. Say I said it was a polygamous family. Mm-hmm. There is no such thing as polygamous now because there is a fight against any polygamy that would happen.
Yeah.
Now the world is becoming more global. It is becoming more and more global. Because when you say, for instance, when you say Africa is not a nation. Africa is made up of nations. But what we should bear in mind is that every person has the right to make contribution to what is called development. The key thing here would be, for instance, making Africa, or if it were possible to make the world free of injustice, then things could be much better than they are now. And then we must also accept the fact that every human being has ideas, and so must be given the opportunity to express themselves. And so here, this is what we now call, now can then refer to as family dynamics. So if we start with a family, we must know that everyone in the family has ideas that can contribute to the well-being of that family. And so it doesn't matter where one is located. This idea of saying people of color, people of this, and so on, those are facts. But then, for instance, if we were to take the war that is going on in Ukraine now, is it African versus African? Is it black versus white? And so the world is becoming more and more global. And so we should be able to have a thing like proactive humanitarianism, proactive, that everyone should have an idea of what to do to bring about development. And everyone should respect the views of the other and see how they can be reconciled in a very common good for everyone to accept. In the era of the dictatorship is over.
Yeah.
There's no more dictatorship. The time when, for instance, parents would insist that this is what you have to do and you have to do it is over, There are the time when you say that I cannot move, I'm here in Africa, I cannot move to the States is over because the people are moving all over now. There's no one place where people don't move. And so we must accept that change is unstoppable, that change is necessary, and it is going on and on. And so we all should, to contribute to that change, we must then have ideas on development on what to do.
Yeah.
And the concept, the idea of work, people think of work is work for someone else. But the concept of work should be self-employment. What do I do for myself and for others?
Yeah.
And what do I do? Can I do for others? So there's a misconception. In one of my publications, I did say that when people talk of employment, if you were to ask in those days, we ask a woman, how are you, as a married wife like you, we were to ask you, what is your job? Assume that you're not working. You say, oh, I'm not employed. But if you were to take what you do at home, to take care of the babies, to take care of everything else in the house, you will find that you're even more, you spend more time than your husband is doing.
Yeah.
Now, you should know that everyone, whether a man or a woman, is a breadwinner.
Yes.
We should move away from the point where people used to say that men are the breadwinners.
Yeah.
And the women are men is serving. So we say everyone is a breadwinner. And everyone has to start with self-employment.
Yeah.
And then see how you can employ other people or before you be employed by others. So real definition of employment is very, very important.
Yeah.
People should read that. And then the other one is a matter of criminality. Now with the development in technology and all this, it is more sophisticated crimes can be committed in a more sophisticated manner.
Yeah.
And so this is where, again, individuals and families should be able to use technology for the good of society, rather than use that technology for destruction.
Yeah.
So that is another area that we have to consider. And then this idea of saying, Africa is not one country. So every development should start from each country.
Yeah.
Because what the African Union and the Economic Commission for Africa did they established a joint secretariat. And that joint secretariat was to enable the African countries to all bring their own development ideas, first nationally, and then bring them together, and then Program 2063 was to be that then we can have a common market. Mm-hmm. But it should not just take Africa as though it is one country. So development issues should start from countries, mm-hmm. and then move into the look at what happened in Europe, for instance. Britain just Brexit.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. When Britain was with the rest of Europe, Europe was known as Europe, but it isn't. Yeah. So for Africa, development should start from the countries.
Yeah.
Define the countries, and then come at the continental level. Then you can have a common market, a common policy.
Yeah.
But to always call Africa, I don't think that is that is the best way of going about the analysis. The analysis and the stimulation should be country-based, and then move on to a continental base.
Yes, that's true.
And we should also remember that this idea of thinking that Black people are only in Africa is no longer the case.
Yeah.
In fact, an interesting thing is that recently we understand that there are some Zambians who was expected to come back from Ukraine, and they decided that no, they're not coming back. And I'm sure in other African countries too, there are Africans who have decided to be Ukrainians. You see?
Yeah, that's
so the world is moving, changing from a village level now. It's coming to international level, coming to global level.
Mm-hmm.
You see?
Yeah.
So we should be able to see the dynamics of development, the dynamics of human relations. Dynamic life should not be limited just to families, but should become things of international or global concern.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you so much for that, Grandad. So there's one last question that I have for you. I would think that in your generation, like, you are probably one of the most educated people that you may know amongst your circles or your age mates, and also considering your story and everything that you've been through, you probably have a lot of lessons and even more stories to tell. I mean, you guys are obviously not getting any younger. And, I feel like you have lived a life that is very exemplary with a lot of experience. Now, if you had to, give advice to the younger generations, what 3 pieces of advice will you give, especially to us, the young ones, young Africans, as we grow older? What 3 pieces of advice will you give to us based on the lessons that you have learned from life?
Well, the very, very first one is yourself as an individual. You should have integrity as an individual. You must have integrity. You must be honest in whatever you do. Then it is the family, because it is the individual who make up the family. The family dynamics, the family relations, they have positive and negative aspects. So one would say, focus on the positive dimensions of family relations. That is wife and husband, or mother and father, the family itself at the family level. Respect for justice, no injustice. And the knowledge that the relations, you are a part of humanity. And so there should be a proactive approach to humanity, in the sense that you should be able to say you belong to a family, so family level, then you belong to society, then the communities, and then we have the national level contribution. Your contribution should be positive, no discrimination. Everything should be humanitarian.
Yeah.
And then international, global. You're part of the global world in which we are. And so whatever we want to do, we must be based, everything that we do, we must base our actions on integrity. I keep referring to this, the honesty that you're here to contribute to
humanity,
to the existence of others and yourself. And so then you have love, peace, unity, and development.
Yeah.
And I want to congratulate all those who are carrying on with the good things of life, the approach to life that they've come through. It is not my name that should be remembered. It is what has been done and what people are doing that should be remembered. Because I don't think I'm already 80 years old, and I never expected to even get to half of that. And so we should be determined that hard work, integrity, humility, proactive humanitarian activities to guide us all through and through.
Yeah. Wow. Thank you so much, Grandad. This has been such an interesting and resourceful conversation. I just want to thank you so much for sharing your story, your life story, and the lessons that came with them. Now, how can people reach you if they want to seek for any kind of advice?
Advice. Okay. Like I said, I'm so grateful that you've given me this opportunity to chat with you, my granddaughter. This is exactly what I said, that I've already been remembered. So anyway, I've already been remembered. This is one of it. And there are so many that they don't even know the name, but they are carrying on with the humanitarian work. And so I have my email address. Also, the email address is asombangwilfred@yahoo.co.uk.
Okay.
Yes, I'm right here in a country that used to be known as the Frontline States.
Right.
the frontline state, because it was taking care of the freedom of all the countries, all the about 8 countries surrounding Zambia.
Mm-hmm.
They were taking care of all the refugees and peace.
Yeah,
it stood for peace all through and through.
mm-hmm.
And that's what I wish Africa were like this.
Right.
I thank you very much indeed. It's
Thank you, Grandpa. This has been such a wonderful conversation. And I hope that our listeners can get a lot of lessons from your story and also from your advice and have these conversations with their own grandparents or with their own family members. And I just hope that we can continue the conversation within our own circles and learn so many lessons from our elders, just the same way as I have done with you. So I really want to thank you so much for coming on to Living African Podcast. And I thank you again for the support. I know you've always been you've been an avid listener to the episodes, and you always give feedback after every episode. So I just want to thank you. I hope that at least I've made you proud somehow. And
you made me proud, and you're doing what you just asked me. What advice can you give to youngsters? Initiative like your own.
Yeah.
You see, this initiative. So everyone should take the initiative, but their mindset.
Yeah.
Have the initiative.
Yes.
And any ideas you have in mind.
Yeah.
What you have done only goes to underscore what I have had in mind.
Yeah.
That you're helping to spread the word. Now you may not even realize how much this podcast arrangement that you've made. The knowledge that you are sharing with youngsters and the impact they would have. So I have been looking for an opportunity, and I must congratulate you.
Thank you, Grandad.
And God would bless,
Amen. Thank you very much. I hope to have more stories as such on the platform. So if anybody out there has a story to tell, and especially who's of African origin, I will be glad to have them on this platform so we can keep the conversation going. But thank you again so much for being on here, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Bye.
Thank you very much, Jenny.
Bye.
That's it for today. Thank you for listening to our show. If you want to participate in the show or find out more helpful resources, then visit www.livingafricanpodcast.com for more information, or email us at hello@livingafricanpodcast.com. Also, don't forget to connect with us on all social media platforms at Living African Podcast. You can also connect with Anyo directly on Facebook or Instagram at Achah Quarter. Thanks again for listening, and let's not forget to be more understanding and nicer to one another.